Sorry. It's not as uncomfortable as it used to be.
I know.
Yes. I think I bent it all up enough. So. Now see, we're mache, it must be hurting. Because this thing was so little. So.
Okay. So, those of you who were meditating earlier, what is it? Resume the position. But we're just going to take a few minutes to let other people catch up. So we want to let go of whatever we were doing on the break, whatever caught our attention getting here, whatever we left behind, whatever we're planning for later. And just anchor ourselves, our attention, on our body present here. So just bringing your attention to the sensations of the body sitting, the temperature in this room, helps us let go of everything else in the past and the future. And just check in with your body, relaxing the face, the jaw, allowing a sense of relaxation and well-being to travel down the body with your mind. Having gratitude for the support your body gives you. Focusing on all the ways it does work, not the ways that it doesn't work. And take a belly breath. Filling the belly and the chest, allowing your breath to reach all parts of your body. Try to recall the reason you came this morning. And using that reason, generate a positive motivation. And set an intention to use your time well. And try to combine your intention with the wish that it not only benefits yourself, but that it ripples out to be of benefit for others around you. And then it ripples out to benefit those around them. Now just gently bring your attention to the class and find the gold prayer book. All right, before measurables on page 34. I'm going to share. Thank you. There's one up here, Kim. This one. Yeah. No, I think they're all good. I think we sat closer with it. So page 34. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from happiness and free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment and crimes. So how are we doing with that? How are y'all doing with your looking at your mind and noticing how you think? It comes and goes. Funny how, the mind is kind of always there. So you think that this will, not be difficult, but it actually is difficult to pay attention with what's going on in the mind. Because what are we doing instead? What's our mind busy doing? It's not observing what's going on in the mind.
Thinking about the past
and then creating things. It just kind of keeps on going, doesn't it?
the chatterbox.
It is a chatterbox. So Mama Yeshi says this is the problem. It's going judging this. Oh, this is good. This is bad. This is bad, and we need to quit listening. So it's this idea that instead of basically writing a novel every day with our thoughts, we just let the mind do its actual function, which is to be aware, of what's happening moment to moment, as opposed to creating stories about what might happen in the future or what happened in the past, or even we even make up stories of what's happening in the moment. We don't just be aware of what's going on. We get involved in the story. So this is, part of what happens when we're, if we recognize we're distracted, like at work, we're not getting something done we need to get done in a timely way, And part of that is because we're not focused. Our mind's dragging us here and there and da-da-da-da-da. So the more that we can choose what we're focused on, instead of just following whatever habit energy is, wherever our mental energy is taking us. And we usually like to follow the story. I mean, I have been a big reader my whole life, you know. I love stories. I like nonfiction stories. I like fiction stories as long as, you know, anything but what's happening right now, you know, I'm engaged in the story. So it's not a helpful habit because basically it means I'm sort of daydreaming my life away with other stories, you know. So the more we can just focus on what am I doing now, you know, am I aware of my body here? Am I aware of whatever it is I'm, you know, theoretically focusing on, you know, whatever task is at hand? Am I listening to the words or am I thinking of what I'm going to say? Am I, you know, we want to be aware of how, you know, how to stay with whatever it is we're doing. Because it's not like we don't have things that we're doing. We're just often not present for it. We're not really there. Thank goodness we have skills, you know, because I know that the older I get, the more I have to pay attention when I drive because I don't have the skills I had when I was younger. My peripheral vision is not as good. I don't take as, you know, information in as I used to, you know. So if I'm not focused, I'm a hazard. I'm a road hazard. You know? And it's quite clear to me I'm not the only one. So, yeah. So if we look at something like that, a big easy example to see how not being present can be dangerous. Actually, we might not want to think too hard about that just while I'm driving. But, you know, we need to, you know, we can start to understand how when we're not present with whatever we're doing in that moment, how much we're missing. You know, so no wonder we don't finish things in a timely fashion, you know, because we're not really there at all. So it's just kind of, and the interesting thing, I know I've shared this with you before, they did a research study where they got, I think, 40,000 people to agree to have someone text them on their phone at random times with some basic questions like, you know, how are you at this moment? You know, what are you doing? Are you focused? And they found there were like 7, I don't know how many, but anyway, because I can't remember. I promised I listened, but I didn't. So anyway, but the point, what was so fascinating to me was that people who are happiest, no matter what they were doing, were the people who were paying attention to what they were doing, even if they didn't like what they were doing. That merely staying focused on what you're doing gives us a mind of ease. You know, why do we? Why, do you have speculation on why that might be? Well, you can't concentrate anymore. So what does concentrating on what you're doing do for you?
Helps you stay focused.
It helps you stay focused. And what kind of confidence can that give you?
Tremendous.
Why?
Because you're focusing on the task at hand. Blocking the
There's no conflict.
There's no conflict.
Yeah, you're blocking all the negatives and just.
Well, you're blocking all the things that you're not doing. You know? And it also can develop a certain confidence that we are handling what we are doing. You know? Whereas like when all of a sudden you realize you weren't paying attention, you almost ran that red light, that doesn't feel good. You know, it's like, whoa. Or you oversleep your alarm or whatever. I mean, we need to realize we're actually doing that to ourselves kind of throughout the day because we're not present. And then we'll kind of push ourselves and go back to whatever it is we're theoretically doing, you know, and it's a process of like that. It's an agitated state, except when we're like, we might feel rested while we're daydreaming. Maybe.
Spaced out.
We're spaced out, you know, but as soon as we realize we haven't been doing what we said we would be doing, you know, we have to keep dragging ourselves back as opposed to making the choice to stay there to begin with. You know, so it's this, you know, we realizing that you can stay focused and that if you stay focused, things go more smoothly. You know, so you can build confidence that this is worth doing, staying focused.
How do you do that?
How do you stay focused? It's exactly what we do in meditation, where we're watching our mind and we notice when we've left the object of our focus. So whatever task we're doing, as soon as we realize, I'm daydreaming, we come back to the task until it becomes a habit. You know, sometimes when it's some task, you know, did we talk about this last week? You know, the task that we don't want to, you know, do, but we have to do, you know, it can be a challenge. But knowing that you have to do it anyway and reminding yourself it will go faster if you stay focused and get it done than if you keep going, I wish I didn't have to do this.
You get more done that way.
Quicker.
Isn't that truly one of the main benefits of meditating, to develop the habit of concentration?
Yeah, it's its point. It's one of the 2 points. You know, so you know, one point is that you're training your mind to pay attention, you know, to what you're telling it to pay attention to. Because it's not like the mind isn't paying attention to something. It's just that we wanted to develop more certainty and more control over what it's paying attention to. So meditation helps us develop that ability to redirect the mind, and then eventually just to tell the mind where you want it to stay, and it stays as you train to stay. The other part is it helps you become aware of your mental events by going inward and focusing on your mind. So you start to see what your habits of mind are. If your habits are negative, if your habits are, you know, all caught up in the past, or they're all caught up in the future. If they're angry habits or positive habits, so that we can have more knowledge about how we spend most of our mental time. Because that affects everything we do very directly.
Plus it affects our health.
I'm sorry?
It also affects our body health.
And who cares? If your mind's not okay, who cares where your body is? This is the point. We have our priorities backwards. We focus on the health of our body, what we eat, or how we exercise, how we. But meantime, we think the world sucks.
Right. It's true.
You know, so that doesn't help. Who cares? Oh, you want to live in this crappy world? Okay, you know. I mean, the point is, if we make our mind happy, content, peaceful, healthy, then it will matter about, you know, that we can take good care of our body. We're aware of what's going on with our body, blah, 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 blah. But the more important piece, because our mind, our body eventually fails. Doesn't matter what you do. It's going to die. It's going to fall apart and die. That's what it does eventually. You know? So, but if you have been working on your mind, when that finally does happen, it won't freak you out. It'll just be another moment of the day.
Adventure.
Yes, it'll be another adventure. And according to Buddhism, of course, you're going to have another adventure after that. So, you know, might as well, you know, look forward to it, not worry about the in-between part. So there's sort of not a moment in between. It's just another moment of thought in a different body. So, yeah.
What about multitasking?
Multitasking, research says it doesn't exist. It's only a myth that we hold on to. Your mind really focuses on one thing. You might be alternating back and forth, which just creates what?
Clutter.
Clutter, chaos, distracted. Yes, it's a aggravation. Yeah, oh, this is a desirable state of mind to have.
Anxiety, depression, right?
So why practice it?
Give it up. This is something I've always been doing. I mean, having the kids, this, it's like I'm a multitasker. That's what I do.
It's what you've been forced to be, forced to do by your boss, by Fortune 500 companies.
I don't even think it's that. I think
No,
that
it's true.
I don't care. That's not what I mean. What I'm trying to get the point is that even if Fortune 500 companies or even all the smaller companies have this emphasis on doing more all at the same time, they are discovering that productivity goes up if they quit trying to get the people to try to focus on more than they actually can, because it's just a myth. So, we're flip-flopping back to, but the main thing too is that's not really pushes. That's the reason why any boss has been able to make us do that is because we do it already. Because we think it's more fun to live in our fantasy world of stories. We think we'll be happier if we plan things down to the smallest detail, whether it's in our daydream of wishes or in our plan for the party next week. It's we have this idea that somehow trying to control everything externally will bring us peace of mind, as opposed to if we work on having a peaceful mind, it kind of won't matter what's happening out here, which is a good thing since we don't have much control over what's happening out here. About the most we have control over is how far our arm reaches until our arm fails. So it's not a lot. So what we need to learn is, maybe if I'll totally learn habit from school, because I was just thinking about how when kids, we see kids when they get, they're figuring something out or something, they're totally focused and they completely ignore every adult, within 100 miles. So we are able to focus from the beginning. That's an ability we have. That's because the mind, that's one of the things the mind can do if we're interested. Part of adulthood is learning how to be focused when we're not interested. Because we don't have a lot of choice about a lot of things we have to do to fill up our day. Because we work, because we need food, because we need shelter. So we live in a society that we survive off a secondary way to do that, which is by earning money, and then we can do all those things. But even back when it was an agrarian society, it's not like people, wanted to spend all their day in the fields. It's just how they got food. So, it was in their best interest. So it's accepting the fact that working in whatever way we're working, you need some help with that curtain. You got very good at that. Thank you. And it's all for me because it just keeps me from having this view of it like an open door. So this, where was I?
Fields, potatoes.
Oh yeah, like farmers. Okay, so this idea that that happiness somehow is being able to do just what you want to do. Really, we're all adults. We know that's not really true. It's not even possible to live our lives that way. So we need to recognize some of that craving that exists from moment to moment of somehow, can't this moment be somewhere else? Either in the mountains, at the beach, at some other job, at some other, this constant desire to kind of be in a better place at a better moment or da-da-da-da-da, it's not helpful because it's not going to happen. And it feeds this dissatisfaction, the sense of, I really have to be here. We need to be able to recognize that that is part of our habit of mind. Is that there's this edge of dissatisfaction. Now, every now and then, fortunately, we have kind of a diverse life. So it's not like we spend every moment doing something we don't want to do, So we have moments with our friends that we enjoy. We have moments eating food that we enjoy, you know, these other things, activities we enjoy doing. But it's helpful to notice if you're carrying your habit of dissatisfaction even within those activities. You know, or you kind of leave that experience and jump ahead to what's going to happen 2 hours from now. You know, an abandoned ship, you know. So, and then your friends go, "Where'd you go? Aren't you interested in my story?" So anyway, but we just, you know, so that this is why we want to notice if we have this habit of noticing the dissatisfaction, what's not going right, what's, you know, that in fact that our attention is drawn there and held there, as opposed to what's going right and what we're enjoying and having our attention go there and focus there. We really do want to notice which direction our habits of mind are, because one will serve us better than the other. One, yeah.
I'm noticing that even as you try to develop your practice, you will have phases of energy, focus, meditation is deep, you know, and then all of a sudden that ends. And
It's
like,
impermanent.
and I mean, in my life
Yeah.
now, so the mind is scattered. There's a laziness that sets in. You're sort of disenchanted with the whole practice. You'd rather just, you'll have your coffee first and then you'll meditate and things like that. And I'm just wondering to get through those, because that's really where you're being challenged to continue, I think.
Right, because it's easy when it all suits. Yeah.
So just sit on
we
the
have-
cushion.
Well, yeah, you should just show up anyway. You know, that's, you know, because it's a discipline. It's not, you're not paying for happiness. It's not like, I'm only going to show up if it's going to make me happy. Well, you're never going to be happy if you keep not doing the training that's going to help you be happy. This is the thing. It's a tool. It is not an end of itself. It's just the tool. And if we don't use it, we won't get anywhere. You know, if we show up to the meditation cushion looking for peacefulness, that's not an appropriate motivation. You can look for peacefulness, you know, in general. I mean, I'm hoping to use this tool to help support me in having a more peaceful, calm mind. The meditation itself may not be what you discover, because it's an observation of what's going on in your mind now, which may not be peaceful. You know, you might discover you have all sorts of nasty little thoughts, you know, judging everybody else or wishing, you know, who knows what. I'm sure it depends on what's going on, you know. But it's just, you know, or you have all sorts of lovely little fantasies that, you know, aren't going on now, but we're thinking about it. You know, so the meditation practice is a discipline so that you can carry the mind that you cultivate eventually through meditation through the day. And that mind isn't a peaceful mind, it's an observant mind. It's an aware mind. The good news is with awareness, we have more choices about where we direct our mind. And then we can choose peace instead of anger, instead of dissatisfaction, instead of craving. So we need our awareness, our observation of what's going on in our mind in order to help direct the mind. Does that make sense? It is not that meditation, you know, just cultivates a peaceful mind. No, what we want, the purpose of meditation is to become more aware, to become more familiar with our inner process, so that we can carry that all day long. So we can notice, whoa, I'm headed in an unskillful direction here. You know, I got hooked by this event earlier today, and I have not let it go. And I'm just letting it, you know, everything I'm doing the rest of the day is being filtered through that experience. You know, is that helpful? oh, maybe it's unhelpful. So what can I do to shift that? So like when you fall into like you said, because that's what we do. So if you've fallen out of favor, meditations are like, oh, now it's a chore. You have to go back to why you do it so that your motivation's correct. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have time every day that we spend doing something that that just feels good for us. Whether it's reading something that feels, that just we enjoy reading, or taking a walk because just want to see the blue sky. Golfing. Doesn't matter what it is. But you do want to watch if it agitates you. Sports like golf are helpful in the sense they're individual. You're not really in competition with each other. And that's kind of helpful, but you want to also watch if that energy agitates you because you're not good enough,
So,
yeah.
I took a few days off week to go back to something that I truly love. I played collegiately golf and had 2 boys and a wife and, the whole white picket fence life, right?
Right.
And so my wife's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm playing golf. She's like, well, I thought you had a meeting. I'm like, yeah, no, I canceled with you. And she hung up on me. It's fine. It's cool. I played the best round of golf in my life that day because I threw everything out, turned my cell phone off, and I didn't tell her about the round of golf because it's irrelevant. The relevance is I found something that I really should have been doing a little bit more often.
Right.
And,
But you need to have self-care. It can't all be meditation unless you're, working towards, I know people that is what they do because that is helping them become the person they want to be. So, and this is the power of relinquishment. We need to be able to step away and exist. Be comfortable with ourselves, be comfortable with what we're doing. We just don't need to live there because we have other things we have to do. It's just the way it is. So if you want to have relationships with people, you kind of have to talk to them. if you You're right. Well, and if you want to have a happy home, to come home to, it's going to involve some communication. It's not because we are not isolated. We always are in community. Whether we have our own, family community that lives under the same roof, or just because we have we work with people, or because we drive on streets that have other people, no matter, because my life is very, very solitary. This is have all these people around is when I come here. But in my home, it's not like that at all. So, but it doesn't mean that I'm still not part of a community. I mean, it's just not, there's no way not to be part of a community. Even if it's just the ants that come in, and you have to decide what you're going to do about that. So there's always opportunities to work with our minds and make choices. And so somebody's like, if we feel like we're making no choices in our life, we're lying to ourselves. Nobody's got a gun to your head. We work because we have to. I mean, we could choose not to work, but do we want that choice? Most of us who don't have a job are looking for one, unless we're retired and we've done our work. So, it's not that, it's not fair that the world makes you work. Excuse me? The world really doesn't make you work. It's just that if you want clothing and want shelter, if you want food, hey, you have to participate. That's just a fact. It's not, so we don't need to resist that fact. Resistance to what is the truth just causes suffering. So if we're having one of those moments at work where it's like, and I'm talking about moments at work when I'm working. It's always so interesting to my mind. So when we have those moments, we can remember to look, okay, is this better than homelessness? I'm not kidding. I mean, it's that,
50-50.
yeah. And if it's not, then you can choose to be homeless. So you really want to recognize it's a choice. So it may not be the perfect job, it may not be the perfect anything, but it's what you're doing now, and it's affording all those things that you need to support yourself in existence. So you can resent it, or you can just accept and accept that. So what is this idea? Because we live in a country that kind of promotes the idea that you do what you love. That's such a fantasy. Who loves anything? I remember my dad gave me advice when I was like 14, which really was not relevant to me because I was a girl and he thought girls should not work. But anyway, I guess I was in the room, so I was the child that was receiving the advice, about how, it doesn't matter what you decide to do, trust me, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 40 years down the road, it's going to be boring. So it's not like there's some ideal work that never gets tiresome, So, we have to shrug those moments off, right? We need to notice, though, if we're not doing that. If we just keep feeding the sense of, I'd rather do anything than this. Or maybe you wouldn't rather be homeless. So we need to take responsibility for the fact that we do these things because there's something in it for us. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that, we need to recognize that we often layer our mind with thoughts that have no reality in them. No one is forcing you to do this. We do it because we have needs and we want to meet those needs. Same thing is true, of our relationships, of our family life, all of those things. We all know we can walk away from those things. But if we don't walk away, we're making a choice to stay. And so when those thoughts of like, it could be better than this, whatever, for a divorced person to say, divorce doesn't fix everything. So you have to keep looking and recognizing, that it's a choice. And if you still feel like there's a gun held to your head, maybe you're not making the right choice for you. So it's just, but it's being honest with ourselves and recognizing there's something in it for us. And then we can choose. Is this what I want in it for me? So we can make our choices. But what that starts with is this awareness of what's going on in the mind. Noticing how we're thinking, and then being able to discern between what is coming from our side, and what is, it's like whether or not we think a job is agreeable or not really comes from our side. And we're allowed to find it not agreeable and move on. But it is coming from our side because there's no job that's not going to be asking you things of you that you would rather not have to do. There's no job that's engaging all the time. There's no job with the perfect boss, even if you're the boss. There's no, none of those things exist. So recognizing that if you have the habit of being dissatisfied, that's something to work on, because that's an inner process. And that's where meditation can help. If you show up, even, if you're showing up to meditation to experience bliss of meditation, then all you're going to get attached to is that feeling of bliss. And when you don't get it, it's going to generate a dissatisfied mind. So you're creating an expectation that's not realistic, because meditation is just not like that. You can spend years meditating and have none of that. To where you keep discovering new layers on that you need to work on. Oh, got to do a little more work there. So, because it's about becoming familiar. And sometimes what we find is a lot of stuff to work on. The good news, if we keep watching, we'll see all this good stuff we do. It's not just, it's like, I'm going to do more of that. Like discovering the mind that's at peace. When you take a break from busy work schedule, we want to talk about moments we want to make sure we're present for, So it's about recognizing we choose. If you choose to never take a break from work, and you're feeling stressed because of that, you want to rethink that. It always comes back to this responsibility. So taking care of our minds is, if our minds are a mess, we can take responsibility for our mind and try to give it the help it needs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So how do we do that?
Come back to the present moment.
That's a start, but it's not the only thing. It's not just about being present in the moment. It's about reflecting on a series of those moments and going, am I spending my time in a skillful way or not? Yes.
I've been meditating for quite a few years. And the real work, really, of getting to the pure, pristine mind, is instead of thinking that you're going to solve all the shadow material that's buried in the subconscious, if that's done in accordance with the meditation practice, that you have someone on the outside who helps you deal with all of that disturbing stuff. So when we sit to meditate, you don't have to go through those terrible memories that some people complain about, because I teach meditation. And people say from time to time, oh my God, I knew something was coming up and it just distracted me. I had to get off the cushion. Well, if you've dealt with the material with someone on the outside, the meditation work does not have to be the tool to clear the shadow material in the subconscious.
Well, in Tibetan Buddhism, we do both practices. We use analytical meditation to do that stuff, so that you're not you don't need someone else to help you. You're using your own awareness of your mind to be able to work on that stuff. Now, you may seek wisdom from other sources, and I strongly advise that. And then we also have meditation to dwell in that, space, that like the stillness or the peace that doesn't have all that garbage come up. So there are two different types of meditations, two different styles. So and you can call them different things. And, in some traditions, what we call analytical meditation is just part of contemplation. It's when you've read something, then you're looking at it, examining it with your own experiences and wisdom and trying to go, is there some truth in that, not truth in that, whatever it is, and then you might just meditate as a way of cultivating familiarity with the stillness of the mind that's beneath all the chaos. So it's just different. Some of it's just semantics, and some of it is a different technique. So if you don't work with the habits of mind, not the memories, not the crud that you've done in the past, not the, any of that stuff, just recognizing we develop habits. Just like we develop the habit to brush our teeth before we go outside, to meet someone, we have habits of mind. And we want to be able to know if our habits of mind are skillful or not. And so being able to be aware of our mental processes that are going on, not just on a meditation cushion. That's not the point. The point is to be able to get up and notice it all through the day, to where you just have an awareness of not just your body. Most of us are, some aware. If our body gets hurt, we're aware of it right away. We want to develop that same kind of being in tune to what our mind's doing. So just like you may have been told, by a doctor or, that you need to be paying attention to these clues, don't keep ignoring them because you're hurting yourself, with your body. We also want to look at the mental clues, the mental habits, not ignore them, and let go of the unskillful habits, unskillful ways of thinking. Sometimes we can do that just by bringing our awareness to it. We start to see, that, oh, this is a waste of my time. I'm going to quit this habit. I'm just even thinking this way. I'm not going to keep rehashing the argument. I'm not going to keep wishing for something that's never going to happen, whatever it is, that you can start to just let go of that habit because it's not helpful. And we can see how it harms us. Other things are harder. We may need some help, from either the teachings, to kind of like, you have a problem with anger, you may need some help really figuring out, how do I work with this anger? If you have trouble being considerate of others, if you're just not really mindful of what other people need, you might need some help to try to how to expand your circle of concern, and let go of this me mind. And when we first start looking at our mind, we first start just noticing, taking enough time to settle underneath all the chaos, to just see the patterns and the habits. We might see a lot that disturbs us, that kind of like, oh, this is a worry. I didn't realize I thought this way, You don't want to get caught up in that, in judgment. That's not useful. It's just sort of like, oh, okay, well, this is good news. It's my mind. I can change it. So it just takes effort. If we're not aware, there's nothing we can change. It's just going to keep doing what it does. But if we're aware of it, we can lessen our grip on that habit so that it can change. Now, if we recognize that we have a lot of good habits in mind, we like what we do, we tend to be fairly easygoing and contented, then we can look at how we can cultivate, the focus on others, just to be even a stronger participant in benefiting others. So it's a matter of, awareness, of just knowing what's, being familiar, not being afraid of it, not being, not thinking that just because you think it means that, it says something about who you are. But we do want to notice our patterns so that we can recognize when we're being unskillful. And what's lovely about developing a habit of being able, to sort of rest in the quiet of the mind, that means it's available all the time. It means, it's the same kind of idea as when, your parents, when you were little, saying, count to 10, take a few deep breaths, to kind of get out of whatever we've just been hooked by. So we can and the more we can develop that through practicing, stillness in our meditation, then we become familiar with it so that we can go there when we need to. Does that make sense? So there are two different, so one aspect of meditation can be exploring, the habits of mind and actually, okay, why might I want to change this? And what can I look at? What are the disadvantages of keeping this mind of anger and fueling this mind of anger? And what are the advantages of letting it go? What's the advantages of patience? So that's one style of working on our minds. And then another style is just discovering that beneath all this, sort of like beneath all the waves of the thoughts, there's a stillness that's present. It's always there. We just tend to get hooked by the stories. If you like a good story, follow your mind. Yes.
So when you practice both of those styles of meditation, they're all done in the same way?
Mm-mm. They're done in two different ways. But all of them begin with settling the mind down. Because you need you need to be able to settle the mind so you can choose what to focus on. And if you're still caught up in all the storylines going on, or the thoughts or the worries or whatever it is going on, it's hard to focus. So all meditations start with a stilling of the mind, a trying to stay in the present and not follow the thoughts all over the place. And so that can be one, and then you can choose a focus, just to develop the concentration of the mind. So maybe there are three types of meditation. So, but if you've got some concern and you're trying to work on, how do I cultivate a desire for patience and a desire to let go of anger, then you have something that you've chosen to reflect on, either a teaching or just a mental list even of all the reasons why, following the mind of anger is not helpful. All the things that harm you from following the mind of anger. And then you might reflect on all the things that are beneficial about developing the mind of patience. And then, so you do that, and then every time you have this experience of, like something in that resonates with you, you don't keep thinking about it. You just, you just settle there for a moment. And then when that experience passes, you can go back to the reflection if you have more time, whatever. But it's about getting familiar again with whatever it is whatever conclusions your mind is cultivating. So that's like an analytical meditation. Then you might go back to your at the end to kind of, like, okay, I'm going to my next thing. I've done this and I'm gonna, so you kind of, you dedicate the benefits of that activity, and then you might start your setting your motivation and intention for whatever you're going to do next. I'm getting up now to go to class. I'm getting up now to go to work. I'm getting up now to go back to work. I'm getting up, whatever it is, and you get, do the next thing. So it just depends. So so with analytical meditation, you use both this, being able to just stay with an experience as well as reflection. So there's a discursive mind and then a non-discursive mind. when you're trying to develop your concentration, you stay with a non-discursive mind. You don't bring in something to investigate.
So bringing in something to investigate is discursive?
Because you're thinking about it.
Okay.
Now, when you have an experience of whatever you're thinking about, like one of those aha moments, you don't think of, you stop the discursiveness and rest in that experience. Yes.
If you're pretty green, you've never really had much meditation experience. How do you attain that focus?
You have to
Sounds
show
a
up
little bit
and
overwhelming.
practice. Yeah.
Okay.
You need to learn some meditations to do, and like following the breath, have some simple instructions, and then you just have to show up. And then you just do it for a few minutes. When you start, it's really to be brief. You want to get up while you still like the process. It's really important, and slowly, you can expand the time.
What's brief?
3 minutes.
5 minutes? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you really start briefly, because we don't have a concentrated mind. We do, it is scattered. So the effort that it takes to even just go, oh yeah, that's right, I'm not supposed to be following that thought. So you start small. Yeah.
Have we ever discovered where is the mind?
No, it has no location according to these teachings. So it's just the mind actually has no boundaries. It's non-physical. Even science can't find it because they're looking for something physical. So according to Buddhism, it's not physical. It's non-physical, and it has no boundaries. An awakened mind can be everywhere because it has no boundaries. It's not, we're kind of bound by the obstacles we make for ourselves. If we think we can't expand our heart to include all living beings, we won't expand our heart to include all living beings. So the more, we want to work with the mind to see how flexible it actually is, how changeable it is, how much we can have an impact on the state of our mind, as opposed to, so it's not just this of the body. So we can recognize that we're both the body and the mind, and not just, put one above the other. Which is part of that process of recognizing that, all the stuff that we have to, that we fill up our lives with because we need to eat, so we need money, and, all this kind of stuff. Then we need whatever it is that we think we need. We chase after all these other things for, fun or pleasure or, entertainment. And we need to see when that actually is a distraction to actually having a peaceful mind. But it's just keeping us in the race. It's like, yeah, let's work. Now let's race through my personal life. And then, okay, sorry, I have to put sleep in there somewhere. And say, we try to cram that in somewhere. But then what do? We lie in the bed, we go, we need to learn how to interrupt those things because it's not helpful.
I thought that was just me.
I'm the best. Yes.
I have a question. So we talked about the mind and the body, and the mind not being part of the body, being it's non-physical. Then how do you describe the spirit?
We don't really talk in terms of the spirit. We say in a way that it's our mind and heart are the same word in Tibetan. So states of mind like love and compassion, which we might call more like emotion or heartfelt or something like that, is all the same. So wisdom is a mind we want to cultivate. So is love. So is compassion. Understanding what those were. Happiness is perfectly fine to have. It's learning how to recognize the incorrect aspects of the mind. And those we want to let go of, like unrealistic expectations being one, thinking that someone else causes us to be angry. So we have a lot of stories as well. Now, repeat your question for me.
So we really
spirit.
we're carrying the own body and the mind being non-physical.
Yeah.
Right?
So the spirit would be part of, like our love and compassion. It's just that they don't talk in terms of this separate thing. But it really is about developing a habit so that every thought becomes imbued with wanting to be a benefit to others, or to be wanting to be kind, whatever that is. But it's not something that's static or fixed, or that is somehow like a part of us but separate from us kind of thing. That when the body dies, that spirit continues. When the body dies, according to Buddhism, I'm sorry, I'm having a cramp. What happens is the next moment, when this body ceases, the mind just arises in its next body. So there's no
period where it's just pure non-physical.
Right.
That's okay.
Until you're sort of enlightened. And then you wouldn't need this kind of body. But it's still, it's what they say is that the mind always rides upon a wind, which is physical. It's an energy, So an awakened mind has a very, very, very subtle body. The mind is still non-physical. So our mind and body are sort of inseparable. But it's not this kind of body. The more we remove the mistaken states of mind, we can actually get free of this kind of existence. So, but our mind just keeps going. So so it's not a separate thing, and it's not a permanent thing. It's a habit of mind. Eventually, we can mentally experience everything, not through these, our thoughts of them. It's hard to kind of describe that. So that's a big picture item. But they don't talk in terms of like the spirit or soul, or,
And I think of that part as being non-physical,
right.
Which has the ability.
Yeah, and so it's all a matter about the definition.
Right.
It's about how you define it. So they talk about, awareness, consciousness in this tradition, because there's nothing that's permanent. In other words, the mind changes moment to moment, but our habits of mind direct us, and the more wisdom we have, then it's not all over the place. We have a steady stream of positive states of mind. Until we become enlightened, then it's just, nothing but correct states of mind. No suffering required. No thoughts required. It's a direct experience of existence. So, sort of inconceivable, but possible, doable. Yeah. So, does everybody know everybody in the room? Please introduce yourselves.
Good job.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
Jerry, or Monday night, there's meditation.
I think so.
Monday night?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I think there's.
Nice to meet you again. I was here last week. Yeah,
Meditation, meditation.
I mean, I work for the Buddhist Foundation, Medicine Science, and Children.
This hour. This morning,
So, Cheryl.
No, actually, it's karma brought you.
Hello, Cheryl.
Okay. So I met Cheryl and Tally. John. I know Steve. And Ralph and Francesca and Ash and Lou's holding up the wall. And there's Jerry and Arlene. I don't know your name.
Naira.
Naira. Naira, this is Brian. And we're back to Cheryl. And then it's Hope. And Vincent. No, it's because I'm, I know this is, do you go by Anthony or AJ?
Anthony.
Okay, Anthony. I don't know your name.
John.
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 It's in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. And then there's Jack. And there's Katrina in front of Jack and Beata. Is that everybody? Did I miss? And I'm Kendra. Okay.
Great.
So there'll be a task next. Okay.
So another way to practice with our minds, Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who's our spiritual director, came up with what he calls an inner job description. So, the idea is that, when we set a motivation, if we really look at what is it that we would like out of our existence, what is it that we would like to be able to think when we're on our deathbed, about ourselves, what is important to us. So when we look at that list, of what's important to us, we can look at our daily life and see, where we're supporting it and where we're not supporting it. So the inner job description of things, he created a note card. Rinpoche can be very meticulous. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. So it can do things on it, like you choose the attitudes you're trying to support, like being kind or being patient or being just, even noticing there's other people in the room so that you're aware maybe they have needs, those things. Notice if you speak harshly or that you gossip or that you have divisive speech where you're actually, saying something that might harm a relationship between other people. So whatever it is, you want to kind of look at what's important to you. And important to the way you're seen is how you behave, how you act towards others. And then put it into some kind of way so that you can recognize when your behavior's not doing that or when your behavior is doing it, And so then, if you're working on something, this is a way to kind of just, people do well with lists or, there's an app for this. So you can use an app. But to kind of keep track. So if you tend to be harsh with yourself, it's a great thing to follow for all the things you do well. I was really patient, with my coworker, in explaining what I needed. Or it was really, for me, I had to, a stretch for me is being patient at the grocery store. So, but whatever it is, and it's just, or then you kind of go, ooh, I was a little harsh in my response to this situation, to these people, and you recognize that. So, at the end of a day or end of the week or end of a meeting, I mean, you can use it just for a meeting. Like the FBMT has to use these at their staff meetings. So it's a way to be able to notice, because sometimes we can't, if we're not really skilled at noticing what's going on in our mind, we can extrapolate from seeing how we treat others. We can see, oh, I was really harsh with people today, so maybe I was focusing on the negative, or I was worried about something and this was influencing all my speech. So it can help clue us in to, it'd be helpful to be paying attention to what's going on in my mind, because it affects how I speak. So it can help reinforce the decision to do these things differently. So sometimes it's just kind of, since we're so skilled in our to-do list for our jobs, or, for our families, you might need to throw in a mental to-do list so that you can remember that how you think is also important, and how we speak is important. That communication is difficult enough, but if we use unkind speech or harsh speech, it just makes it even more difficult. And then if we are really good at that, if that's a skill we have, like I always love watching Jackie talk to her daughter. Jackie's our meditation teacher, and she's really just has lovely speech. And I really just appreciate the way she talks to her daughter. Her daughter's, an adult, but it's just, it's these things. So you can, I don't have really kind speech that way. Have you noticed? So it's just, so it helps me to notice it in others and go, oh, I'd like to sound like that, within reason. We have to know how far we can stretch ourselves and, go at our pace. But it's, but it is, so we all have skills like that. We have skills that we are good at. I'm very observant when people need something. I mean, like, they need me to shut up, for example, and quit using harsh speech. But, so it's just, we all have good strengths and we all have areas that could use a little work. But if you're bad at rejoicing about the good stuff you do, you can use a list like this to help you notice that, oh yeah, that's right. I am pretty good, when I talk to others. I'm kind, I'm patient, or I display patience, even if my mind's going nuts. At least I don't yell at somebody for, to get out of my way, whatever. So these are just ways of staying on top of it, remembering, because this is important. It's like how you want to feel about yourself. It's sort of like if every night you go to bed feeling like, I didn't do too well today, or I hate the fact that I'm going to have to wait tomorrow to this same life, we want to work on that. But that's not helpful. Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, if you, know yourself as somebody who doesn't have patience, and then you recognize it in somebody else who doesn't have patience, is that a way to show like compassion for somebody else? Yes. More, because then you realize it's not directed at you. It's that that person's having their problem with patience, and it's not that you are causing that person to have no patience for you.
Right.
So, and it's something you recognize in yourself. It's easier to feel more empathy or whatever, compassion for the other person.
Only if you know what is in your own mind when you act that way. So yes, I mean, so like, and that's a really good practice to have, is that if someone's doing behaviors that you recognize in yourself and they're not skillful, to remember that when you do it, you're kind of out of control. You're responding either from a place of suffering or from habit energy, and it's something you too would like to change in yourself. And so you need to use that energy to generate some compassion for their states of mind that are causing this to arise. Instead of judging you both. That's, because it's a community. So just like we struggle with our unskillful actions, so do others. And we're all kind of out of control, we're under the control, I should say, of our habits. So some of those habits are really great ones. Yay, and other ones not so great. But the more we have gentleness and compassion for ourselves, and the more we can have gentleness and compassion for others doing the same thing we do, that just makes everything a little easier, more at ease, in the sense of just, we don't overreact, we don't get mad. Instead, we feel our common, suffering and seeking of happiness. We both want that. The person who's impatient is expressing that desire. I don't want to feel this way. I want to feel that way. And please get out of my way so I can do it. So it's totally the wrong idea of how to find their happiness. It's not any different than what we're trying to have all the time. That's what we're all doing. We're all trying to be happy. And we're just totally screwing it up. We don't know what we're doing. We're out exactly. And so to have more empathy and compassion and just recognizing, this is not a personal attack. This is the thing.
I have been patient a lot, and I feel really bad about that, but I wish like for Anthony to understand that.
We're taking a pause for personal communication. This is a commercial break. That's and Anthony.
Oh, you guys know each other?
On purpose. I'm working on it.
I'm going to drink something a little different. I think to myself, all these people that don't think like me, don't agree with me, basically I have to share the planet with them. Whether they like it or not.
That's right.
Yeah. It's not an idea to try to kill everybody that doesn't think like me.
Yeah.
So why not just share the planet with them?
That's right. And it really is this kind of that it's okay. And that they, in the text, they say that a really strong practicing Buddhist looks crazy to everybody else. So, and so so it's clear I'm not there yet. So, the outfit might be, but it's this ability to just keep reminding ourselves, no big deal. These are just people struggling, and we don't know what we're doing. And if I have hope, guess what? I've met some teachings that can really help me. So perhaps my behavior can help someone else. It's instead of judging them, instead of judging ourselves, losing our grip on all that and just going, choose differently next time. So, but so if somebody brought up Jackie's class on Monday nights right now is a visualization meditation class. So it goes for 3 more Mondays, I think. So from 7 to 9 on Mondays. So that's a good class. So she exposes the class to different techniques of meditation, because we need to find ones that resonate with us. Those are good ones to start with. And then we have to branch out and try ones that seem a little weird, because we don't know if it might have some impact on the way we think.
That's a different kind of meditation. Visualization.
Well, it's not different from its goals. It's just that visualization is using the tool of visualization to help train it. Well,
necessarily.
it's used that way. It can be like visualizing, you know, your loved ones, your enemies, and your strangers, you know, in order to develop even compassion for all three groups. So it can be analytical, you know, but we also use, because it's Tibetan Buddhism, we use images of enlightened beings, which is what all these paintings are about. Because they just, you know, they are just different. It's a picture language of different qualities of mind that we aspire to, you know. So, you know, the one with 1,000 arms is, you know, compassion. Green Tara is about enlightened activity. She's got her leg out because she's ready to get up and help. You know. So these are just different. It's a different way of expressing qualities of mind that can be perfected in the sense of, you know, that they're not mixed with what's in it for you, where it's truly about someone else. So medicine Buddhist blue, I don't know why, but that's the healing. So, you know, Imini Buddha is usually gold. Yeah. And Jushri has a sword to cut our ignorance. They use lots of weaponry, you know, as the people of the time could certainly relate to that. So, but it's all about the using our wisdom to cut our afflictions of mind. Because just like Steve said, it doesn't help us to try to kill all our enemies. We just make more. It's not going to work. So might as well get along. And if the teachings are correct, we will meet these people again and again, life after life after life. Might as well learn to get along with them here, now. So you don't want to repeat a relationship, don't repeat it tomorrow. Because, you know, so it's like that. All right, so I mentioned Decky's visualization class. I'm teaching Death and Rebirth on Thursday nights. Tuesday nights are our advanced class. Is there anything else happening this week? No. Okay.
Next week is on Wednesday we have puja.
This week, Wednesday?
Medicine Buddha puja, but not this one, next
Oh,
one.
yeah, forget that. That's too far away. Get a calendar. Let's all get confused.
That's what I was going to suggest. Just take a look at the board outside and also the calendar. There's some great upcoming programs and goals for us. So
Yeah, we have a day of meditation coming up in November. So that's particularly good for people who do this Discovering Buddhism series, but anything. It's just, again, it's a day of meditate, different types of meditations and different topics. This one will be about the mind and how to meditate. So that'll be easy. I don't know what you're asking me. I can't read your mind. I'm sorry. We're going to do dedications. You want to do this before or after dedication? Okay. So let's turn to page 244. No, 246. 246.
Yes, and I got one more.
Thank you, David's prayer. Yeah, the other. You heard me correctly. I was wrong. So the idea here is we're going to take all the positive energy that we've created by, like, even considering our minds we're looking at, and getting it to the benefit of others, and making the wish that our whatever benefits we create don't exhaust until there are no suffering sentient beings. So may all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms, and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, and the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as faith remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the mysteries of the world. And also, I forgot to mention, we do a meditation on Sundays, from 10:15 to 10:45. So, if you're new to meditation, that may be kind of a long time meditate, but it's a way to just expose yourself to different meditations. You can always sit in a chair if you're not used to sitting on a cushion for a while, so that's also doable. We do ask that you come on time for it so that people are not distracted by, we only have 30 minutes, and it could be distracting for people to walk in and out. So, and I always forget to ask people to turn off their phones, but that's helpful too. So, anyway, yeah, Ralph.
Just very quickly, recognize the members of our son that we're celebrating something, and Jackie, like family, around longer. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, it's
Happy birthday.
Just let you know that we're thinking.
Happy birthday
We're glad you're here. And we all have the karma to share some time with you in this life. And that's what's so cool. Every person we meet, according to the teaching, that's some karmic connection, right? That we are, somewhere have them. So all our communities are full of people that we are karmically connected with. And so those people that you have trouble getting along with, it's before you're trying harder. So, anyway, y'all have a great day or not, but be mindful of whatever happens. And remember, it's all impermanent. It changes. Thank you.
Please. I think it's just, they often have two of these that will just be on the strap.